Hey guys, it's Jen, and if you took the June SAT exam or you know someone who did, then you may be aware that there were some unpleasant surprises surrounding the score release. Today I want to share some of my thoughts on what happened. Now, I am a longtime test prep instructor. I've helped many of my students prepare for the SATs, including the one in June. So this video is going to be quite detailed, but I have broken up into several sections, so feel free to jump to the ones that interest you. The topics I want to cover today include how the test is actually scored, what happened in June, why this may have happened, whom the situation negatively impacts, and some of the next steps that you can take to better position yourself going forward. So let's dive right into it. The first thing I want to address is how the SAT is actually scored. There's a lot of misconception in this area, and I want to clear it up for you once and for all. So the first thing you need to know is that the SAT is not curved in the traditional sense. A lot of people think that your score is dependent upon the other test takers that day, but that is in fact not true. Your score is not impacted by the caliber of any other students taking that exact same exam. The College Board really tries to eliminate any perceived advantages of one test over another, and they do this through a process called equating. So what this means is before the test is actually administered, they account for the difficulty of the exam questions. They take the raw scores and create the conversion table where they scale the score to the more typical 200 to 800 scale that you may be used to. Again, this is done before the test, so it is already predetermined. Now, as an outsider, we don't have any idea what the conversion table is going to be until the scores are released. Looking at past practice exams or even official exams administered by the College Board earlier is not going to give you the most accurate indication of what your actual score is going to be. So if you've been following so far, then you may be wondering, well, that sounds like it will be really difficult. Can the College Board really do this perfectly? And, your hunch will be correct. It would be very difficult to do. I mean, considering a test objectively and its difficulty objectively, it's very hard to do perfectly. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to trust that they are professionals and that they are doing the best they can. So what exactly happened in June? If you're not familiar, there were some anomalies with the score release. For one, it took a lot longer than average to get the results. So normally when students take an SAT exam, there's only about a 2-week lag between when they take it and when they get their scores. In June, the test was administered June 2nd, but students didn't get their results until July 11th, over a month after. On top of that, there were a few questions that the College Board deemed unscorable, which means they actually threw it out after the test results came in, presumably because they thought the questions were not that great. That then leads one to think maybe College Board's quality control process wasn't as rigorous as it should have been. Now, the most obvious reason for all of the backlash is that the scores came back a lot lower than expected. There were some students who reported that they got 10 fewer questions wrong on this test than a prior exam, yet their score dropped by 10 points. So now we're going to enter some speculation mode. Again, this is not information that the College Board has provided. These are my thoughts based on my observations and experiences, so do take them with a grain of salt. But I have two theories about why this may have happened. So the first is that potentially College Board just didn't have enough time to produce a really high quality exam. And to really understand this, you need to have a little bit of background about how the test writing process works. So in the past, College Board actually outsourced the test question writing to another entity called ETS. With the release of the redesigned SAT, however, College Board decided to bring that task in-house again. So College Board is now responsible for writing the actual test questions. Some of the reviewers of the exam have reported that there are flaws with the test, especially with the math sections. But up until now, they have more or less been accepted. One thing to note is that both of the March and the May College Board exams offer the question and answer service, which is a service where students can actually purchase a copy of their actual exam. So this means that they can have the test questions that they took and they have the ability to analyze them. Probably, as expected, College Board would have put a lot more effort into those questions to make sure they were at the quality standards that they want, because students get the opportunity to analyze them. And that is in fact what happened. Both of the March and the May exam questions were very well written. They were very fair and on par with the other exams that came before it. That means, though, there's only a 1-month turnaround between the May and the June exam. That's not a lot of time to produce a whole new test with equally good questions. College Board employees are still human at the end of the day, and potentially with so many exams so close together, they probably just didn't have the manpower to put together a really good test. Now, my second theory is a little bit more cynical. It's long been suspected that College Board has been trying to fight for more market share from the ACT. In fact, that's one of the primary suspected reasons for why the SAT even underwent this redesign in the first place. Even since the release of the new SAT, College Board has constantly been trying to make little tweaks to find the sweet spot. So they want to create an exam that is both difficult enough to still separate the cream of the crop, but they also want to make sure the exam is relatively accessible to the average student. And that has been a hard spot for them to find. But I think with this June exam, they overshot a little bit and made the test a little bit too easy. Had they tried to make the test incrementally easier, maybe 10 to 20 points here and there, it would have been more acceptable, and the result wouldn't have been so bad. But they definitely overshot, and as a result, there has been quite a lot of upset surrounding this. So then that leads me to, who does this actually impact? And in my opinion, there's a few groups of people. The first are the high achieving students. These are the students who already have very respectable SAT scores, but they just wanted to give a final push and get the score that can get them into their dream schools. Why an easier test is especially hard on those students is that there's really no buffer for any silly mistakes, especially on the math section. So in past exams, some students can miss one question on the math and still come out with an 800 perfect score. On this test though, if you miss even one question, you're already out 30 points. And that is a lot. That is a big deduction for that kind of error. That, ultimately may hurt their college prospects, because as much as we want to believe that colleges will spend all the time on a single application, the reality is they probably will not be going into your test score in such detail as to find how many questions you missed to contribute to your score. What they will see is just that final composite score. And perhaps most importantly, and this is most unfortunate as well, is that the result of this easier exam is that it really hurts students' self-esteem. So quite a few of my students came out of the June exam feeling super confident, like they totally rocked it. And they worked really diligently and were eagerly anticipating to be rewarded for their hard work. Yet, results like these were really disappointing. The thing is, I did witness real improvements in my students over the months that we worked together, yet their results left them in doubt of their abilities. As a tutor, this is really hard to watch. While I'm very upfront with my students about the fact that luck does play a role on any standardized exam, I also want to instill in them that they are not at the mercy of luck, that hard work does pay off. But in this instance, College Board has been sending them mixed signals. Now, the second party to be impacted negatively by the results of the June exam is College Board itself. As we said earlier, the conversion tables are created before the test is even given. This means that College Board deliberately made the test easy, and that action in itself is going to cause people to lose faith in College Board. It gives the perception that the ACT is a more stable exam, and when given the option of which test to take, more students are going to opt for the ACT, which they perceive as a more reliable exam. So SAT's efforts to make itself seem comparable to the ACT is really backfiring. So let's talk about, what potential steps you can take to better position yourself going forward. Now, there are petitions going on urging College Board to remedy the situation. There's different hashtags floating around, and I'm sure their phones are ringing off the hook. So needless to say, College Board knows what's going on. I'm just not confident that anything is going to come out of it. Ultimately, they are still a powerful entity, and they have quite a strong foothold in the testing market. With that said, though, I am all for being proactive. So in the meantime, if you are unhappy with your score and you are at all considering the August SAT exam, then I recommend that you sign up for it as soon as you can. That test tends to fill up really quickly, and you definitely don't want to be stuck driving hours to your testing center. Then once you're registered, you want to get to studying. My hope is that with such a strong backlash from the June exam, the August exam will be much more reasonable because the College Board will put a lot of effort into making sure the questions are really good quality. So you definitely want to put this exam behind you and go into that one ready to give it your all. So that concludes my discussion on the situation surrounding the June SAT exam. If there's any questions you have that I didn't get to answer, please leave them in a comment below. If you like this video, please subscribe for more on test taking tips and strategies.